everybody. It's Tim with the Attitude for Gratitude podcast down here at 4026 Washington Avenue North. We're at Will Work for Recovery. We do the podcast every Friday night. We go live at 8 p.m. Sometimes we go a little earlier, but I will make those notifications if that's the case. We're on TikTok Live. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And trying to break into some other platforms. But we are down here at Will Work for Recovery. We have meetings every night of the week at 7 p.m. On Wednesdays, we do a men's meeting and a separate women's meeting at 5 p.m. Come on down, do that hour meeting, hang out for some fellowship for an hour or so, and then we have the big meeting at 7 p.m. Every night of the week, there's a 7 p.m. meeting. Tuesdays, there's a Well-Bridie meeting. That's an Indigenous persons-based meeting where we do some spiritual readings and then share. Thursday night's more of a spiritual style meeting as well with Megan. Friday is a call-up meeting where you get a ticket and they call your number and you stand up and talk about what's been keeping you clean and sober. There's just all types of variety of recovery down here at Will Work for Recovery with the structured meeting every morning at 6:30 a.m. and on Sunday it's at 7 a.m. Other than that, like, this is a place that it's a resource center. It's an RCO. It's a recovery community organization. We have peer recovery specialists. We have multiple different avenues of recovery down here. We have a computer room with computer classes that have started, and they continually restart. So look into that. Speak with myself, Paul, Carolyn, anyone who's of service down here can kind of get you linked in. We've always got more things that come about. We got Chucky the Soap Man down here who's making soap by the bundles. Come on down and get some. If you haven't tried this soap, like, I implore you to give it a shot. Everyone who gets some always comes back for more. And Chuck's like, he's a godly man with the biggest heart of anyone I've ever met. He makes this soap and just hands it out. He does take donations, but basically I'm always watching him just hand soap out. So it's just, it's part of the different things that we do down here. Wednesday nights, there's a recovery podcast that they've started. It's called Rule 62 with a rotating type format of open door policy. Anyone can come in and share about their stories. And Friday nights, so the night of the podcast at 8:30, Big O started Recovery Okie. Like, there's just multiple things. And then Race has got the fire pit going all through the winter. He's built this big, huge, like, miraculous type fire pit with all these pallets around it. Just a lot of stuff happening down here. We got ping pong tables and foosball tables, and prayer rooms, and big monitors with big screen movies playing, all sorts of stuff. We have a full workout room. Come on down here, check it out. 4026 Washington Avenue North. If you're struggling, please reach out. Down 988 Intergroup, or come on down. Get ready, buckle up for the show.
Buckle up. We got Justin in the house.
How you doing?
There. So the only thing you guys know I sit and reiterate is that thing about reaching out if you're struggling. Here's also the thing. I've said it before. Like, if you're up in Duluth listening right now and you're going through it and you just need somewhere safe, you can make it down here in time to get on some karaoke and have a fun time down here. It's clean and sober. There's tons of things always going on down here, and it's safe, clean, sober, fun. That's what we do down here. We'll work for recovery. Other than that, like, there's not much for me to sit and talk about except for getting right into this story. My good friend Justin, we'll talk about how we know each other down the road, but you know what it is. If you have questions, go ahead and post them to either me directly, or you can put it on the message board on any of the platforms. I do get notifications, and I'll do my best to get to those questions, but we'll try to get through a story. And as always, like Justin, I'll try my best not to interrupt. But there are things that, like, I'll ask you to elaborate on. A lot of time it has to do with timelines. Whatever, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But other than that, like, we got sound, we're good to go. Let's get this thing jamming.
Well, let's put a chair on the fire, get some gasoline, and let's go.
My man, this is the guy I look up to. This is a guy I've known for almost 8 full years, a little less, but it's an honor to have him on the show tonight, as I've known him this whole time of my journey, and I've never heard his story. And he's been doing some big things, and he's about to make some big moves, which you're about to hear about. So, Justin, take it away.
Jeez.
However, I will do my best not to interrupt like I'm already doing, but like, I'll just keep us going. You know, basically timeline.
Yeah.
Best thing to remind you of it is what it was like what happened, what it's like now. Experience, train,
Yeah,
goal.
I think for me, just starting off with what got me
Perfect.
to where I'm at, you know, it was a long journey to get to the recovery stage, you know, and I don't, you know, what I can say is as far back as I can remember, I just didn't fit. You know, I didn't fit. I felt like the wrong time, wrong place. You know, and I was a very hyperactive kid that broke stuff, stole, you know that thing where they tell you, they talk about the marshmallows and they give the kid, and the kid who would, don't eat the marshmallow till we come back, or when we'll give you more, or if I was a kid, no way was I waiting. You know, there was just, if I wanted something, it was bright and shiny and shimmering, it was mine. You know, there was no, I mean, selfish from the get-go. Like you know, and that's as far back as I can remember, you know, and always getting in trouble. You know, there was never any time that I can remember that things were going good. It was always breaking something, getting into something, and getting yelled at. And I just think I was a lot, you know.
Do you have siblings?
I have siblings. I'm the oldest sibling.
Okay.
I'm the oldest child. I have 2 stepbrothers and sisters on my mom's side with my stepdad. My real dad had some kids. I've met one of them, 2 of them, you know, kind of get through there. So, you know, my mom and dad divorced real quick. I mean, I never met my real dad. I think the last time I seen him, I was 2. From what I understand, he was in and out of prison, abusive, whatever. You hear the whole thing. And he was in Florida. My mom moved us back up here. I think, you know, I carried a lot of that stuff with me. You know, I never got to see him after that. He died when I was 8. Okay. So that was a big, just a question mark, you know, that I was never going to answer. There was no, you know, who was he? Who am I? Where did I come from? You know, did he care for me? You know?
Yeah. Looking back at that, was that something at 8 years old, or between 8 and 12, which is whatever? Was there like, that was what was going through your?
You know, you make shit up at 8.
Right.
You know, the things that you tell, you know, one of the earliest memories I have, I remember sitting by the front window, just waiting, you know, he's going to come and pick me up. It was, you know, he was, take me away from here, because nothing was going right wherever I was.
Okay.
You know, you know, I don't remember too much of real little, you know, other than adults being frustrated and upset with me.
I remember ticking them off.
Yeah. You know, school was not my jam. You know, I will say a lot of what I talk about from here has been years of, you know, being able to dissect my life, you know.
Okay.
3 times in prison and SEG. And so I've been able to dissect my life.
Looking back on it.
Back on and going over every inch of it. You know, you can't spend 6 months in SEG and not dissect every minute of your life and everything that happened, and have a good idea of where you were and what happened and why it happened, you know.
Reflecting. A quick question. I'm going to be asking you this throughout, stuff like this. So we might know what it means, but we have listeners who don't. So I'm going to ask you, silly, What do you mean when you say seg? Like you say I
Okay,
sat for 6 months and seg.
segregation. So when you get locked up in prison and then you still break the rules, they put you in a tiny little room,
A smaller
in
prison.
a smaller room, and then if you screw up in there, back in the day, they sent you surfing. So they beat you up, strip you naked, and put you on this little board that you lean you up against the wall. So yeah, I couldn't follow the rules
Okay.
anywhere I went. I will say, like, my name's Justin. I'm an addict. I qualify to be here. But I think, I have a little different thought is alcohol and drugs is not my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking has been my problem. Alcohol and drugs was my solution to my problem. So going back in my early life, thinking was my problem. The way I thought just didn't mesh with everybody. And like selfish, fearful, impulsive, so the things that I look back on now, I can tell that my 8-year-old brain made
that
situation, and I know my mom did a lot to protect me from my dad and my dad's side of the family. She didn't ever talk bad about him, but she didn't say anything about him. Right. So that left it up to me to
fill in the blank.
And I had to make it. Why isn't he coming to see me? And I, don't know if I really understood death at that time. So,
8 years old.
He's coming. What do you mean he's never coming? He's coming back for me. Which, my mom got remarried to my stepdad, who's probably, one of the best guys I know. He was a teacher, patient. He was there for me from day one.
Okay.
Like he raised me, I call him dad. He gave me as good a life as you possibly could. We didn't have everything. We were pretty poor at the time, but we had the basics.
You didn't go without.
We didn't go without.
Right.
And they, he showed up. Like he showed up to sports. He showed up to anything. He did his best.
You were showing love.
I was showing love. Whether I understood it, that was it. He was an easy scapegoat.
Well,
like for my failings, I just couldn't. The rest of my family, my mom's side of the family were all bikers.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty.
And he was a straight and narrow dude.
He was a straight and narrow dude. His brother wasn't. So my uncle on his side, he was a biker. And it was the 70s. They were all.
Yeah.
It was, big family Christmases and drinking and fights and drama and marriages and divorces and fight. I would go to the bars with my uncles and they would get in fights. It was a crazy time in northeast Minneapolis. So that kind of, I looked up to them. They were the Larson brothers, and that there was a lot of stigma with them. As a kid, I knew what that. I just knew what that meant when you had a reputation,
right? And that was something you kind of strived towards at that time.
Well, I can remember. I never wanted to be the police officer. I was always the robber.
Right.
When we were 5 and 6 playing cops and robbers, I was always the robber. I was always the bad guy. I always, you know,
Right.
I was always the bad guy,
Right.
you know. I fought, you know, I will say that I couldn't have personal relationships. I didn't know how to communicate or whatever. I just, at a young age, I couldn't make friends. I mean, the only friends I had was my cousins and his friends, and they had to like me, you know, because he was my cousin, and you know, so, but you know, I had one friend that lived up the block, and his parents hated me, and you know, he was a straight lace, but you know, he was just my neighbor, so he, you know, he didn't have any choices either, you know.
He's stuck right next to me.
And you know, but in school, I didn't do well in school. I had no boundaries. There was no boundaries in our household. You know, there was no personal space. There was no, I didn't have that filter where you're in my space. You know, my space was always invaded by, you know, nobody. I didn't have personal space, so I didn't give anybody else personal space. Well, when you're a kid, you know, and only child, and they're not used to somebody, you know,
stepping in and
and I was on all the time, you know, it was full speed all the time, and I was just a lot to deal with, you know, and looking back at it now, I can understand, like who would even want to deal with that, you know, and so I understand now how, you know, I just didn't know who I was.
Was it, looking back, I mean, was it a lashing out, I want attention thing, or was it just I didn't give a?
Yeah, I cared, you know, because I obviously wanted friends, but you know, and I tried, but I tried too hard. You know, I put it like, you know, there's two kind of analogies I can think of is, you know, driving in a snowstorm on the ice. You know, when you start to slide and then you overcorrect and go the other way. Yeah. So there was never any way that I could gently go into anything.
Right.
I would be off kilter, and then I would try to correct, and I would overcorrect, and there was I never hit the mark. I was all over the place.
That's a good way of explaining.
The other, you know, is that little circle thing that the astronauts, you know, they put you in the circle and you spin this way, spin that way, and you're trying to, you know, that's just how my whole brain went at the time. You know, I could never seem to get on an even keel. I was just madly spinning, and anybody around me would just get pummeled. You know, it was just, you know, it was probably stressful. It was just a ball of stress and nervousness and craziness. And so, yeah, it was just hard to make friends, and that's early age, you know, and not understanding it.
Right.
You know, as I got older, you know, that's when it turned, you know, that's when, like, okay, motherfuckers, that's when the middle, that now it's like, you know, okay, I leaned into it, you know, and my uncles, you know, I just wanted to be better than they were, you know.
Yeah.
And even as a kid, I was just, you know, I fought, and I was kind of the older brother, you know. So my sister's like 8 years younger than me, and my brother's 10 years younger than me. So
you were the older.
So when I got there, it was me.
Right.
I had no older brothers or anybody, so, you know, I would get in a fight, and then they would get their buddies, and then, you know, I had no friends, so they would go get their buddies, and I have to beat their buddy up, and then they would somebody get their older brother, then I would beat the older brother up. You know, it just never stopped.
Right.
And I, you know, I think about it, you know, I always, you know, I never wanted to start a fight. You know, I wasn't the one to start. People just had problems with me. people just were annoyed by me.
I was gonna say, was it just
And-
annoyed with your energy or your?
It was just a negative energy, and I leaned into it, you know. So
Mhm.
when they wanted to have an issue, well, I was happy to give you the
Right.
issue.
I get it.
And it just snowballed, you know, and you go through school, and you know, I ran through the school, and then like I said, everybody's older brothers, so it was a reputation. And I mean, even the teachers, you know, I'll get into, you know, kind of, I got a story about that too, but
Come on.
you know, so school just wasn't my thing, you know.
Mhm.
But the thinking problem is I went to school, I wore my roller skates to school because I thought it would be cool to roller skate down the halls of the
Such a smooth
elementary
surface.
school,
Yeah.
you know. So third grade, I go roll to school and get kicked out, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, sent home, and so I was constantly kind of, you know, getting sent home for stuff, and
Yeah.
and I will say now, my feelings got hurt a lot. Like you know, I used to say I didn't have no feeling. No, I had
Probably.
supercharged feelings
Yeah.
that got hurt a lot because I just didn't understand why you just didn't like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was trying so hard, and then you'd make me beat you up.
Right.
You know,
that's our goal. Well, from like the go-to is an anger, a lash back out.
Yeah.
My feelings are hurt. Here's how I'm going to deal with it. You know.
you know, so that's elementary school. You know, middle school is when it, you know, kind of really turned to destructive. You know, that's when I mean, middle school is when I would run out, and, you know, we would walk around all night stealing hubcaps, and you know, we'd tear the
Hood ornaments
off, and then we stole stereos. You know, we didn't even have cars, you know. And I would
This
go,
was is this when criminal Justin really started?
yeah, that's
Okay.
that was, you know, I didn't just break shit to break shit, but I would steal shit, like, but like I would steal car stereos, and I didn't have a car, never used it. You know, I put them all under my waterbed and just threw them in there. Like, it was just the fact of doing it. I don't
Doing
know.
it.
I was a thief from early.
Like,
you know,
was it a thrill type of thing, or is it just
I
trying to
don't know.
impress friends? Because I know a lot of mine. That's what it was. Like, I was out here
Yeah.
trying to show off or impress. Or
Yeah, I don't know. I did it by myself too. So I mean, it was just like, if I wanted something, I took it. You know. So, you know, whatever I seen that people had hubcaps on their wall, you know, and I don't think, you know, my mom finally put me in the basement, you know, so I had a room in the basement, door to outside,
Yeah.
just because they didn't want to, you know, deal with me.
Right.
So it was easier just to,
Look this way instead.
yeah, they just didn't
Right.
pay attention. You know, you know, I get brought home by the cops, or the cops came, you know, searched my room because for the stereos, and you know, all that stuff happened. You know, 13 was my first felony.
13.
That was I burglarized the elementary school. So I was in middle school, and date me. So the schools only had 2 computers, or they had the Apple IIe's, and
Yeah.
they were in the library. And you know, back then you know, they would bring the class down, and you would get to play Oregon Trail,
Oregon Trail.
you know, it was only once a week or something and then you had to split it with the class. So you only got one shot at this Oregon Trail, and you'd always die. Right. So my idea, you know, and I talked to the one friend that I had at the time, that we were going to go take the computer. You know, he had a modem at home, or, you know,
Yeah.
we were going to take the computer from the elementary school in the Oregon Trail. We're going to set it up in his closet with the modem, and so that we could play Oregon
You had a whole
Trail
plan. Yeah.
whenever we wanted. You know.
Yeah.
So we did. You know, we went and it was, you know, we thought about, we had the glass cutter, you know, so we were going to cut the circle in the glass, and you know, that didn't work, so we ended up just breaking the glass and going in the window and loading up the computer, and the mistake we made, well, you know, it was in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Is we were trying to find the disc for the Oregon Trail, and you couldn't do it in the dark, so we turned the light on so we could see if somebody called the police. So we had everything, and all of a sudden the cops showed up, and we ran. And
while you were there?
Yeah, we were there and ran, and we did this and ended up getting caught. So that was my first
felony. They hit you with a felony.
First felony burglary.
Did they put you in juvie over it? Or being there?
Yeah, I mean, I went to jail. I remember going to jail. You know, they took me to jail, and I don't think I did any time at that time, but you know, that was the start of your first time I had to go really see the judge. You know, all the other times they just brought you home, and that was the first time that I had to go to court and do all that, and first of many. You know, that was middle school. I thought, you know, I was kind of, you know, like everybody says, I was different, right? I didn't fit into anything. You know, I was a jock. I was really good at sports. You know, I was, you know, always, there was like one or three of us that, 1, 2, or 3, we won everything. Every gold medal, you know, between the three of us, we were the jocks. But I wasn't a jock because I would get in a fight with everybody. I mean, I would go to the park and we'd play hockey, and I would fight with the guys on my own team. You know, so I really wasn't a jock, but I was. You know, all my uncles wore cowboy boots and cowboy hats and leather vests and jeans and Harley T-shirts. So that's what I wore to school, you know, and everybody, that wasn't what was in. It was the 80s.
Yeah, that's retro days. Sorry, but I was resharing that with everyone. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, so I just didn't fit. I was kind of a stoner at that, but I didn't get along with the stoners either. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a nerd, you know, I was smart, but I wasn't a nerd, you know. So
you didn't do good in school.
I just didn't.
Because you what?
I just never turned stuff in.
Right.
Like I was disorganized. I never did stuff. So like, I learned later on. You know, they would go do, you know, the parent teachers conference, and I'd be missing all these assignments, and then they would go to my locker, and all the assignments would be done in the locker. You know, I just never turned them in. You know, I just
a type of like, who cares type of an attitude.
Yeah, I just wasn't. I was bored all the time. Like, you made me sit inside, and I just didn't. I couldn't sit still to save your life.
Right.
Like, so sitting in a classroom was not good for me. I was just, you know, make distractions, and teachers.
Class clown.
I wasn't even a clown because nobody liked me, you know, like I was just a distraction. So, you know, middle school to high school, you know, I thought I would make, you know, I remember thinking I want to make a change, you know, it's going to be different in high school, you know, and it wasn't. You know, the first I got there, right off the bat, I got into a fight with like the most popular senior in the whole school as a freshman, and he was like running for king type of most popular kid in the whole freaking school.
And you bump heads with him.
And we bump in the hallway, and he says something, pushed me. I pushed him back, you know, and I'm wearing pointy-toed cowboy boots, you know, there were, it was like, I stuck out, and
kids aren't the friendliest or nicest either.
And then we went in the bathroom, and I'd be beat him bad. I broke his collarbone. It was, and he was dating the most popular girl in my class. She was like super popular, and everybody, it was just, and then it went downhill from there because now people really would, try to get people that were tougher to fight me.
Yeah.
So then it was
like they did in those, yeah.
and it didn't help because the friends I had, we would have parties. They would like set me up to get into fight because they thought it was funny. Like they had a party at their house and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're the bouncer. Don't let him downstairs." And I'm like, "It's my cousin's house." It was just knowing that wasn't gonna go well.
Right.
And that it just and I've leaned into it. I wanted to be the toughest bat. I wanted to be a gangster.
That became your label.
That was it. And high school just was pretty miserable. Just and junior year, kind of the guy that I beat up, his most popular girlfriend was in my class. In my junior year, her name was Lanny LaPlante. She got hit by a car and died out at the Gold Rush. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a teen thing that everybody would go to. Well, she got hit and run. Driver hit her, killed her. Right, she was alive for a little bit but she hated me. Like we would walk down the halls, and she would hit me. She hated my guts.
Peter's boyfriend up
and so I was, at 16, I was out of my house. I was sleeping on couches in friends' houses, and my mom just said, "If you can't follow my rules, go." And I left, and that was it. I was kind of bouncing around until I get in trouble, and then they would throw me in the foster home for a little bit, and then they'd let me out of the foster home, go home, and that would last a month, and then I would go again. But the junior years that happened, and like, the whole school was like in mourning, and she was in a coma and like doing prayer vigils, and I was living in a storage closet, like I'm out of here, like fuck this. So I like got up and walked out. The day she died, I remember, it was just too much for me. I'm like, well, if prayer vigil, everybody cried. I got up and walked out. And so I'm walking down the hall during this whole quiet time. So after that, it was
another target on your back.
So then everybody hated. I mean, the whole school hated me. Like everybody in there. I mean, it was what. So, but I kept going. I mean, I don't know why I had to graduate or whatever. Kept going.
Kept going to school. Did you end up graduating, right?
Not quite, but I went and I got my first apartment at 17. I don't know how they gave me an apartment at Polynesian Village.
Yeah, because isn't 18 like you're supposed to?
Yeah, it was, I don't know. So me and my buddy, that was my first apartment. We moved out, and three guys in an apartment.
At 17.
At 17, and it was just a mess, 1-bedroom apartment, and and I was just and I was drinking at that time, so it was just all.
When did the drugs or alcohol come in?
So I think we always drank. Okay. We were always drinkers. Like my cousin and my buddies, their dads were bikers, so the people that could handle me knew that their families were bikers. So that was kind of our thing, we would get beer, and it was normal. So we just, was stealing cars and just doing whatever. And I don't know why I was just bored. I couldn't sit at home, and everybody else went. I think it's because everybody else went to school. So like I couldn't just sit home and wait for them to get off. So I would go. I mean, boredom's one of the major things in my life that I just, I couldn't handle. So I had to, even though I hated it. I put myself into bad situations because I
just to do something,
just to move. And, you know, but at that time, I mean, I would just get up and leave. Like, I think 17, I dropped my buddy off at home and I was walking home and I just decided to hitchhike to Florida. Like in the middle of the night, just left, you know, went to my uncle's house and showed up like 3 days later and showed up, I'm here. And they're like, well, you called my mom and put me on a bus and sent me home, you know, like, you know,
what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
Man?
So, I mean, it was like, you know, no, I didn't fit, you know, and I'll say my family, you know, with my stepdad and stuff and my sister, they were like a family that I just didn't feel like I fit in. I felt like a third wheel in that.
I mean, and knowing now, looking back, like they love you.
They did everything they could to make me not feel like that. That was my thinking problem. Yep. Like I couldn't figure out.
No, and I get that.
Who I was, you know.
Not pointing out your story, but just this, like, I recognize how great I had it because of coming to these rooms and hearing story and clearing my head up and realize, you know what I mean? So,
you know, I mean,
but it doesn't take away from the fact
my house
felt that way.
My house had its issues. You know, there was definitely emotional issues that in my household. It was a toxic household. It looked good from the outside, you know, but there was toxic traits throughout.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it was what it was. The love was had to be. It wasn't given freely, and it costed a lot to get that attention and that love, you know. And
5 kids, and you're 8 years older than the closest one to you.
Yeah. And then you know, I just didn't fit.
I get it.
You know, so it was continually going downhill. You know, I mean, at that time we had the apartment. You know, a lot of stuff was going on. I wasn't even doing drugs, but we were pool hall every day, drinking. It was just a matter of time till I found somebody. You know, I just hadn't found a clique yet because but all of them were trying to live normal lives. But you know, they would have jobs and girlfriends, and I was getting drunk, burning pizzas and setting the house on fire, and you know,
stealing cars, and
you know, motorcycles, and you know, it didn't last long. You know, at that time I just turned 18. Geez, trying to get this. So I went to Wisconsin. One of my buddies moved out there, so I kind of went out to Wisconsin Dells and stayed out there and tried to do a second year senior there. So I thought, if I just go to a high school out there, that didn't go.
Changing locations didn't fix it?
No, it didn't fix it. And you know, I met a girl, you know, that was going to college. His girlfriend was going to La Crosse, so we went to a party in La Crosse, and I met a girl there and ended up, you know, packing up and moving there and staying with her friends. And that lasted a couple of weeks because I had no job, no money, you know, and I got a job, and it was a union job. And I worked for a couple of weeks, worked my ass off, 12-hour days at a print shop, and you had to have a direct deposit to get a check, and I didn't have a bank account, so they didn't pay me. And so I'm like, and I was living off a bar, you know, no food for like a week, and I got tired. I didn't ask for any help, you know. Too proud to ask for any help, and you know, she was helping me out enough. So, you know, my thought was, I I broke into the apartment next door, and the guy that I was living with came home, and I had all the stuff, and he just kind of knew that something was wrong, and then he left and called his mom, who knew the cops, and they came, and I got a burglary charge. I just turned 18, so
Big boy.
So went to jail in La Crosse, Wisconsin, 18 for a couple of months, was in there, got out from there, came back to Minnesota, and I was a couple of months till I got my armed robbery, so that's how I was living,
So before this armed robbery, because we'll work for recovery. We talk about recovery, and you did mention like drugs and alcohol were a solution for you.
Yeah.
Looking back at those times, like when you were drinking and if drug and weed, whatever, was that what it was then? Like
there was no weed. It was alcohol.
Okay, so the alcohol, like when you were
Alcohol.
drinking, was it for a solution, or was that just
No,
back when it was still
that was when it was still everybody
okay,
just
it wasn't
drank.
a problem.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a problem, other than every once in a while you just get to. I mean,
Well, yeah.
we just didn't know how to drink.
Right, yeah, kids.
You drink half a bottle
Right.
of Yukon Jack and get stupid.
Yeah.
But I was never a drinker to like forget
Right.
and go to blackout. I was just trying to.
This part of your
I was
story-
trying to fit in
Right.
and have a good time with everybody.
Well, like we hear, it's a solution at this point in your life that drugs and alcohol
Yeah.
weren't a solution right then.
It helped calm my nerves, and like everybody else,
Okay,
I could.
yeah.
But
You're doing crime on your own.
yeah, it had nothing to do with the crime. I did the crime
Right.
because I
Yeah.
wanted to.
Thank
I wanted
you.
to run around with guns.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a gangster.
That persona, yeah.
So that's what it was. And
So you get your first charge. You're big boy. I mean, you're over 18, armed robbery.
so I was
that's not
out.
armed.
I was out on bail for the burglary.
Okay.
When the armed robbery happened, and what happened is it was actually before, and I kind of came back to the scene with everybody, and my buddies were like, yeah, no, and they actually told they called the police and told they knew of this when this happened, like 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And when I came back, they're like, you're not coming back to stay with us. So they went and told that they told the police that I told them that I did that. They knew they were there,
Was this their way of like being like, we get rid of them this way?
that was their way
Okay.
of getting that. There was like, I was gone for a period of time, and the apartment,
Yeah.
everything was peaceful and everybody was,
You turned into this fucking criminal.
and then I come back and turn the furniture upside down. So they were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And so my best friend and our other friend, he was friends because he was best friends with my best friend. So
Okay.
he really didn't like me, but
Tolerated it because of friendships
Yeah.
and did
but we all three had this apartment, and they're like, yeah, he's not coming back. So they came and picked me up for the armed robbery. I was 6 months into being 18. Took it to trial. So that I was trying to go. I got my GED in the Ramsey County
Right.
Workhouse, waiting to go to trial. Because I thought,
good.
yeah. So I mean, I tried to take it to trial because I thought I was smart, and ended up with 68 months
Oh,
right off the bat.
what was that, 5.5 years?
Yeah. So that was my first.
So you spent your 21st birthday locked up, huh?
I spent my 19th birthday locked up. So like, yeah, I was. I was in St. Cloud. I went to St. Cloud back then. It was under 27. Went to St. Cloud. Over 27 went to Stillwater. So then
Side note, is it Stillwater they're closing, or is it?
Stillwater.
It
they're
is.
closing.
It's not Cloud. It's Stillwater.
No,
Salt.
it's-
Okay.
Stillwater.
Yeah.
So that was. So I went there, and I actually, it worked for me. Really,
Prison did?
Prison worked for me. I fit in. I
Institutionalized or just no? It was fit in type. Your people first time. Explain that.
Yeah, I wasn't institutionalized, but because
you did just share about your whole adolescence, you didn't fit in.
Yeah. So when I got there, I knew it was real simple who to, back then you walked in, when you got there, you were locked in for three days or whatever, 72 hours.
Acclimating.
And then you went from B house and then you went to chow. They finally let you out for chow. When you get back then, you would go through the chow line and there was sections. You had the white section, the black section, the Indian section, and they all had their carpet, and then right in the middle was the gump section, right? Like
the what section?
The gump section. That's where all the child molesters. You could tell they were fucked up.
Right.
They looked fucked up. So I looked around. I mean, I didn't have tats at that time, but I mean, I was a biker.
You were a wood.
So I walked in and you look, okay, I don't belong there. I don't belong there. Okay, those guys
are my guys.
Are where I'm going to go sit, right? So then I went to walk in that section and, they said, you can't sit here. I'm like, okay. And then you look around and like, I'm not going to sit there.
I'm not sitting with the
I'm not going there. And then they all stood up and I said, well, you got to put my trade on. So let's go. We're fine. I can say I'm not walking back over there. And then they laughed and sat down. I ended up sitting down with two lifers. And that was they said, sit here. And that was my table. So my table was with two guys doing life. And
now, without me jumping too far ahead, this isn't where coworker guy comes into picture. This is a different stint, right?
Co-work. Oh no.
Sorry. Keep her coming. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to let that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I messed up. I didn't turn on our monitor. Can you keep it going? It'll take me 30 seconds. Keep going. My audience wants to hear it. We're getting good feedback.
So
keep going.
So yeah. So
but keep on the jail stuff because I want to hear more when I come in.
All right.
You still going, right?
No, I'm
you just had dead air that whole time?
I just dead air.
I apologize. That was me. I'm a terrible host. I forgot to turn on our exterior monitor. Good, because I want to hear. All right, so we're in prison. You earned your seat at the table with two lifers.
Yeah. So then it was, I fit in, and the rules were simple. You got into a couple fights and whatever, but really I fit in. I could follow the rules. I was fine with rules, as long as I knew them, and it just fit.
Two quick questions. One, it's about race when you're in jail. You stick with your own race, basically, correct? And second, now, whether I was having this conversation with Rob earlier because some people we knew were locked up or whatever, we're looking at and talking about it. And a guy who's since passed, so we can bring him up, Billy, when he got out, he said, I don't think he used words, I miss prison, but it was easier. He would say that, and I'm trying to say that if it's and not constitutionalized, but it's structure.
It's structure. I never had structure, and it was easy if I had the schedule to follow,
right?
And I could follow it.
And you did.
And I knew the rules. It was simple.
Right.
If you called me a punk, I punched you in the face, and I went to say it was no big deal. It was just
so cut.
it was cut and dry.
Right.
There was no there was no in between.
Right.
There was no. I didn't have to think about priorities. There was no. I didn't have to prioritize.
Right.
It was everything was set. I didn't have to. I didn't have to think about it.
We could have a whole show on just talking
So,
about this topic of how just where you were at, like you couldn't find no comfortability, but then.
But I still have my issues in there. Like I still. So, back up.
Mhm.
Honesty was not my friend.
Oh, imagine that.
From day one. I was. If I had to say anything about, I was very artistic, creative. I was an actor. Like
Yeah.
I was. I like to change and
yeah.
I like to tell stories. So and I would take, I was one of them guys that would hear other stuff. I mean, my life was pretty. I did enough dumb shit so I could just tell dumb.
Right.
I did enough dumb shit to fill the room with stories.
So you would be holding court and politics.
But I would listen to stuff, and a lot of them guys had drug habits. Like I didn't have a drug habit, so I kind of had to make one up. Like I went to treatment and had a cocaine problem in treatment, and I never even did cocaine at the time. Like I never even tried it. So I'm telling about how I got a cocaine problem because I didn't want to feel left out, like
right?
Feel stupid. Like I don't have.
You went to treatment in prison. That's funny. But it also shaves time, doesn't it? Though when you do treatment programs.
If you complete it, I didn't complete it.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
I went to seg from so yeah, it didn't work.
I don't mean
but treatment was different back then. I mean, they dunce caps and
I've heard about what's it called, Paul? When you guys eating house
type of
diapers
stuff.
and shit.
Yeah, it was prison treatment was different back then. So
I'd say more effective, but whatever.
So I mean, I know motherfuckers were like, this dude's full of shit. Like now I'm thinking about it. Like I thought I was snowing everybody. Like no, like this dude's full of shit. I
just think the whole concept's funny.
But the guy was just like, okay, he's just full of shit, and it just worked. I made it through. At the time they had college in there, so I went to college. They used to have professors come in from St. Cloud State University. So I was doing real college classes with professors.
And you had no issues with academic. I mean, you could do
school. I could do.
Yeah, I thought so. I remember a conversation on the first.
I was very, I mean, I could just listen and do math. Like okay. I could put my head down and just listen to the lecture and then do it.
Like, you took it in.
I took it in. English, I didn't really care. I'll get into that later. But I could pick things up, and I had good comprehension.
Okay.
And good memory, so I could, I didn't have to take notes. I would just, I just took tests. I never did homework. I never did homework at all.
Or turn it in.
I went through college and I would just do the tests. And so I had that going. So I was in college for a couple of years. I was getting ready to graduate. They wanted to move me to medium. And I'm like, no, I'm in college. I don't want to go. I mean,
they didn't offer it if you're in medium?
No. So for the St. Cloud, I was in St. Cloud. So I was like, no, I'm fine here. So I turned down medium at the time, and medium was back then was, grills and I mean, it was a madhouse, but I mean, I was like, I was set. I have my cell, a single cell. I mean, I had everything I needed.
And let's make this distinction. It's not because you're institutionalized.
It worked for me,
Okay, yeah.
And I was going to school and I wanted to finish, right. I thought, walk out of here with a degree,
Hell yeah.
Then we got down to my last year and I was in my last semester of college, and they're like, "You're gonna go to minimum," and I'm like, "No, I don't want to go to." I got one semester,
Right.
and they're like, "You don't have a choice." So, yeah, they made me go to minimum, which I was like, "Fuck, this sucks," you know.
That's a funny statement. Like, I didn't want to go to minimum.
You know, I got the minimum, and minimum at that time was up in Moose Lake. So, I mean, you could sign out and go to the beach.
Oh,
You could canoe, you know, you go to the grocery store. They would take you to the grocery store.
kind of
get
almost
your
a
own-
halfway house.
Yeah, it was
Step down.
the minimum back then was something
Yeah,
else.
I
You
never heard
know,
of minimum like that.
but like, you know, my last semester they tried to ship my books to me, but then I never. So I ended up never graduating.
What, just 10
You know.
credits shy or about?
Yeah,
whatever
I was shy.
semester is?
You know, and another thing, like in that 4 years, I taught myself how to play guitar. So I had a guitar.
Nice.
So you know, I taught myself how to play. You know, I was in art. I did art stuff. I was
Involved.
I got to do what
Yeah.
you know, I just worked for me. So I went to minimum. You know, I went through that. They finally gave me work release. So I had 6 months left on my sentence.
Of a 64, or what was it?
68 months.
68-month sentence.
So I they send me to West 7th down in St. Paul. You know, and I'm 24. So like I get out and I, you know, my whole prison time, I didn't have anybody come see me.
Close the door, please. Oh, there's a speaker out there.
So I, you know, I might have called my mom and dad like once every 6 months or something. I see they'd come up maybe once or twice a year. I never got on the phone. I didn't call, you know, my best friend testified against me. So I really didn't have anybody to
Right.
call, you know, so this was it, you know, so now I was getting out, you know, my cousin and a few people I knew had houses and girlfriends and jobs and like I was behind, like,
Right.
then I was like, what am I going to do? You know? So this was where the thinking problem
Comes back
comes
into play.
in. So like, you know, I met my first pass. I was at my parents' house and my sister's friend's mom left some ID in her car, you know, and was like called up
No, you're good.
she didn't even know who I was. You know, who's this? I'm like, this is Alicia's brother, you know, and she's like, Alicia's got a brother. So, I mean, I was like, nobody knew about me, you know, that's
Right.
kind of how I was like this
Black sheep type
secret,
thing.
you know,
Just-
but,
yeah.
you know, I'm like, I'll bring you your, you know, I just wanted to, I was sitting on my mom's couch like this bored.
Right.
So, I looked at the ID and man, she looked all right, you know.
Yeah.
So I brought her ID and I'm in the house. She had a house on a lake and a Mustang and she was drunk, like, and she was 14 years older than me. And she was, and you know, so I'm there for like an hour or whatever, chatting up and, you know, who do you live with? No, and she was single, like, you know, and that was it. You know, I was, I knew I needed a place to go. I needed a place to live. I needed a house.
Yeah.
You know, I needed a car.
Right.
So this was it. You know, that was,
And what, you're 25, 26?
24, you know, so I'm getting out of, you know, I was just got out of prison. I
Yeah.
was lifting weights. I was, you know, I was
Yeah,
prime.
she found herself a hot young man.
So, yeah, so the next pass I had, do you think I went to mom and dad's?
I went straight over to my new wife's house.
Well, I went because she was a drunk.
Yeah.
So I went straight to the liquor store, grabbed a case of beer, and went to her house. And 2 weeks later, we were married.
Oh, she did become your wife.
Oh yeah, Yeah, that was
Yes.
yeah, that
I mean, it was out of just love, right, Justin?
well, yeah, of course.
Or
it was.
necessity,
I
whatever.
mean, now all of a sudden I had a better house than everybody. I had a better car.
You jumped the shark, dude.
It took me. I wasn't even out of prison yet. I was still in the halfway
Still on
house.
pass.
So I was like, yeah, what? This is easy. But I thought, okay, I just got to do this for a little bit. And she's old. She's going to die. Like,
This was your thought. Your thinking.
I still thought I still didn't think I was going to live past 32.
Still had that mentality. That thought.
24. I thought I had a few years left, and she's past due.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought she would die, and I would have a house, and this would be all
Yeah,
mine.
all figured out.
7 years later, she wasn't dead. I'll kind of skip that. What I'll say is she.
Go closer to Mike a little.
She, I got out. I ended up going back to prison, before I even got out of the halfway house because I wasn't following the rules, going to her house.
So would they make you execute whatever was left on, or they tap on?
I just went back. They took my work release, so I went back for 6 months.
Okay.
And, she came up, dropped money off, and bought a car ready for me to get out, so I got out, went there, when I was on intensive supervised release. So now I had a year. It ended up being a year and a half of intensive supervised release.
Damn, ISR,
So,
heavy.
and she was, I never lived with anybody other than prison, so I didn't know how to deal with neighbors. I didn't know how to do. So it was my education into
Society,
being society.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had my problems, that neighbors didn't like me, they would, and I would tell them I burn their house down, and it would be like, you can't do that. You got, so it was a training for me, but she became my guard, right? Because I couldn't leave.
She was your CO.
She was a mean drunk, so when she would freak out, I couldn't leave, so I had to sit there and take it, and, but I didn't have any options. So
ISR, that's not an ankle bracelet. That's a pro officer showing up out of the blue.
They come out, UA,
Yeah.
whatever. I had to call where I'm going. When I get
Did
there,
they do color wheel and all that shit then, or no?
They came right to your house.
Yeah, I thought so.
Pee in the cup.
Yeah.
They come to your work, pee in the cup.
And what were you drinking at the time?
I wasn't. Once I got about a year in,
learned the sketch.
I learned the schedule. So then I was like, okay, they're not coming till. So then I would try to drink, but then I of course I got caught drinking, so it pushed me back another 6 months. But yeah, I was married to her for 7 years. I was probably the worst husband in the world, that's when her friend is the one who introduced me to cocaine.
Oh, so you finally made good on your life.
So I kind of, I finally, 27 years old, I was introduced to cocaine.
Hang on. If you're just tuning in, I'm referencing Justin was locked up earlier and he was telling, he just wanted to fit in. So he was going to the treatment inside of prison saying he had a coke problem, but he had never even tried it. We had a lot of people pop on since we started. But yeah, so now you were introduced to.
I was introduced. I did my first line of cocaine at 27, and I was shooting coke within 6 months.
Just gung ho all.
Yeah, it was. That was it. I think.
Freight train.
I think I got off of probation too. So I
I
expired, so there was no probation, there was no nothing. Now there's cocaine, and me just mixed. Like that was
Did it mellow you?
Yeah, like I could think clearly.
Yeah.
Like
so, like there might be a chemical, an ADD or whatever, because you shared like all growing up, like couldn't sit still, you're always fidgeting, blah blah blah. Like
definitely, if I smoked pot, I would literally go in the closet and wish to die.
Right.
Be
No, I get
paranoid,
it.
like
Yeah.
downers
The
didn't do it for
anxiety.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, another thing that I had I had grave sleep apnea. So even in my 20s, like
With the breathing, that
I
okay.
was, so I would wake myself up like 4 times a minute all night long. So I never got sleep. So I was like, it was considered deadly, sleep apnea, even at that age.
Yeah, shit.
So I was always tired. Like, and of course, you know, I started working construction. So I was 27 doing construction. I would get up 5 in the morning and 2:30, 3 get off, and I could go to sleep, and like to do what I wanted to do. I was tired all the time, even though I was 27. I didn't have that energy, but soon as the coke came, like that gave me the energy. I think that, you know, more than that just fit with me, that gave me the ability to actually go out to the bar and not be tired.
Right.
And,
right.
you know,
Yep.
that let me hang in there where I wasn't always tired. And so that hooked me, you know. And,
Yeah. So at 27, you became a cocaine addict.
oh yeah. It, you know, it went from lines to crack to shooting.
Yeah.
Like I said, within 6 months, I was shooting dope, and my uncle and all his friends were, you know, he was a crack addict. So, you know, I kind of latched in, you know. Paul knows him, but
What is this, mid 90s?
Late 90s.
Yeah, crack was still a thing.
Yeah.
It was definitely
So late 90s.
Yeah.
So that whole group.
Because the meth wasn't, it was crank. I mean, it
I didn't even
Right.
even like crank back then. I mean, I did it.
but
you
that's
know,
what it was.
But you would do one little
Yeah,
line and be
that's
up
not-
for 3 days.
Yeah, it's
and,
not the same as that. This meth.
and I was still trying to work and function, you know, until, you know, it became too much. And
But
then
this is where we can say at 27 is when you became
27,
an addict.
I became an addict, and that just, I was off and running. Now I was put around criminals again, and I was trying to get away from you know, I just wouldn't come home for days. Right. And now all of a sudden, you know, the criminal part came out. You know, I was always still taking what I wanted. I would cut any corner at that time, but now, you know, I was really starting to do the crime to do, you know,
Right. To live.
it was crack, you know, it was 10 felonies a day, you know.
Yeah.
And the people that I hung out with were real criminals. Yeah, they were career criminals.
Yeah.
So, and that's those few years was, you know, in and out of jails, and I ended up going back to prison 2 more times, you know, and the thing was, is it was almost I remember I ran so hard that when I finally went to jail and was going back to prison, it was like vacation. You know, it was a relief.
Yeah.
It was.
I always think about it as this finally I get there.
Yep, and I would do the time and then come out, and it was kind of right back. You know, I just had nothing. I had no ambition. I
was gonna say, were you at a point? Because we're getting to the part where you finally hung it up.
Yeah.
But were you ever at a mindset yet of like, something's got to change, or no, not yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I was just trying to find. I still wanted to be
chasing that life.
You know, I was just trying to be smarter at it than
you
know.
it.
So I mean, guns. I did 68 months. Let's do checks, and then I'd only get 18. You know, so
I'm being smarter about my crime.
Right, and so I rolled hard for a few years, and then backing out. So the last time I'll say, I was in, you know, like going back to what I said before, like you go over your life. My life, I didn't have much time outside of jail and prisons at that time, you know, other than my wife at that time, you know, thinking back, I only had a few, even when I was a kid, I was in and out and foster homes and stuff. There's only a few bright spots that I remember. And I remember when I was in my last third bit, and I ran into somebody that knew a girl that I knew from school.
In
Like,
jail?
In jail.
Okay.
You know,
Prison.
and it was like a girlfriend I had one of the only girlfriends I had when I was in school. You know, no, like I said, nobody really liked me, so I had very little to go off of, but that was a bright spot. And she was in Shakopee. And so I was like, okay, you know, pen paling somebody from Shakopee, that was my idea, you know. So we're going to get together when we get out. She got out 30 days before me. You know, I called her up one time. She said, oh, yeah, she's out, you know, whatever. Second time I called her, mom answers, yeah, she's not here. I'm like, well, where is she? She's in the nut ward. So this is like 10 days before I get out.
And this was your kind of backup
This,
plan.
you know, so thinking problems.
Yeah.
So you think that maybe I shouldn't. So the first thing I do is go to the nut ward. So
Yeah, I gotta go check on my girl.
But so thinking problems. She was a heroin addict. So it didn't take me long to get right back into, you know, using. We ended up having 2 kids. So she got pregnant with my first son, Jack.
Okay.
So this was the first time, you know, that I really knew fear. You know, I won't say fear because I'm a fear-based person, but that I was actually scared. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. Like I knew that I didn't want my kid to grow up without a dad like I did. Like I didn't want to be in prison. I didn't want to die. I wanted him to have. I wanted to be in my son's life.
So it wasn't fear of the unknown. It was fear of not.
Like, so, you know, kind of at the time you know, I'll go into kind of, I'm really good at finding good jobs.
Yeah, I know.
So like this was kind of, so I'm just out of prison for 3 years. I got a job as a appointment setter for mortgages. So I was setting appointment for mortgage brokers, and it was a big, you know, the interest rates, everybody's buying houses and refinancing. So I talked, you know, I was good at, I was good on the phone. Like I could talk to people, I could set a lot of appointments. You know, I found out through going to the bar with one of the loan officers that I would get $10 for every appointment that I set for him. I'm like, well, what do you get? you know, so he said, I get about $5,000 for every loan I close. Well, I'm like, went to the boss and like, I want to be a loan officer, you know, I want that job.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, well, they do this and okay, you know, just they wanted me to set appointments. So they set a thing that says if you set this ungodly amount of appointments over the next 2 months, we'll let you be a loan officer. So for the next 2 months, I was, you know,
busting ass.
I was on it. So then I set all the appointments for them. And I actually started setting appointments for myself because I could tell which ones were good. And, you know, I had a house with the wife, so we did a loan. So I kind of knew the process, right? So I could tell what was a good loan.
And what, were you cold calling or were they out?
I was cold calling. Like I would just dial. So I would dial, you know. And So I set like 2 weeks of appointments for me on top of what I sold for them. So when I went in there, they were like, I know you hit the number we asked, but we're just not ready. And that's when I said, well, so I've got 2 weeks of appointments set to come to see me. So I'm just going to tell them to not come. And the guy was like, what?
The guy loaded my guns, bro.
So I kind of forced him in. He gave me the last office at the end of the hall with a desk, no computer, no nothing. Just here. He said, all I want you to do is have them fill out these papers. And then we'll figure out what kind of loan. You just have them fill out these papers. And so I did, and I was with her, and she was pregnant with Jack. So I was sober for the first time.
Okay.
So I wasn't using. So I was going to work before everybody, and then I wouldn't leave till I was the first one there and the last one to leave.
And a lot of this was because I got a kid coming.
I got a kid coming. I'm sober. And it wasn't boring to me. Like I was selling, and it was commission. It was 100% commission. So I made no money
unless you were busting ass. Yes.
So, and I could talk. I could make whatever.
ABC, always be selling, baby.
And they, if I talked them into a higher rate, I made more money. So it was a challenge for me at the time with my brain. So I was able, and I functioned really well with it. And I just knew that I couldn't be downtown Minneapolis with the sun coming. So I needed a house, I needed a car, I needed to get there. And this, this was up to me. I could sell, I just had to talk to more people and get them to sign. And I was good at it. So I made lots of money, as a 3-time. And I remember, I talked to the guys that I was inside with, and I'm like, down at the office was down by the airport. I would sit in my office in my chair, and the planes would come out over my window. And I'm like, they pay me to do this. This is crazy. It's like, it was like legal. I mean,
I say what it is.
It was, because
this was before the crash, right?
This was before the crash.
Loan was pop.
Oh, you want a loan? No job, no nothing, no income, here, we'll give you a loan.
We'll get you one.
And I would get $6,000 on the back end, So yeah, I mean, it worked for me.
Yeah.
And I went from getting us renting us a place, and then I ended up talking a guy that I was going to rent this condo for him, and I ended up talking him into giving us contract for deed his place in Eden Prairie. So moved us out to Eden Prairie. And when he finally was born, I was the most fearful ever. Like that's when I looked at him and I'm like, I didn't want him to know who I was.
Okay.
That's the first time I was like, I don't like who I am.
This is the first time.
Like, I don't want him to know who I am. I'm not going back to prison.
Was it a full thought of like, and I can do this, or I need some help to do this?
No,
we weren't even at that.
We weren't at that point. I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Okay.
I just know that I'm not going back to prison.
Right.
I'm not going to be not in my kid's life. I'm not leaving.
Right.
But it didn't take long. We started using here and there on the weekends. Our mom would watch the kid. And every couple of weekends turned into every weekend, turned into every day, and now I'm, doing crack in the bathroom. Making $120,000 a year as a mortgage broker, like making money, buying cars, and
just a recipe.
And then she got pregnant with my second son, and that was the first time that I knew that I was an addict. Like, because we quit when she was pregnant with Jack. So I went cold turkey.
Right.
Like, and I
You're
was
able
fine.
to.
And then my life went to the moon. You know, I was functioning well.
Yeah.
Now, when she was pregnant with Alex, that was the point when I couldn't stop. Like, we ended up playing off each other. Like, we can't do this anymore. You know, as the pregnancy got further, the further we, 6 months into the pregnancy or whatever, we're not stopping. And if I wanted to stop that day, she wanted something. And it was just, it was bad. And that was the first time I'm like, I can't stop. I don't. And I knew that I was addicted. Before then, I was like, I can stop whenever I want.
I did it before.
Yeah. This is nothing. My second son was, born with drugs in his system. He was early. So they came in, and I had a good, at that time, the mortgage ended because mortgage crashed.
Yeah.
So
the mortgage crisis. Yeah.
So now I actually went back to school. I was in college because they paid me to go to college. I didn't know what else to do. And, so I had to get clean. They came and, took all the kids. They came and took Jack and her daughter.
CPS
came in and I thought, well, she was high, but I was clean. Yeah, I'll give you a bit. They're like, yeah, no. So they came and took the kids. And so then that's when we went to treatment. She went to treatment. We did everything. We got them back pretty quickly. You know, the kids went to my parents, and, once I stopped using, things went well. Like things
repeatedly throughout your life so far. Every time you stop, went.
We got the kids back. I ended up getting another job. I'll say again, I interview well. So I went to a job interview. It was measuring stuff with lasers.
Okay.
Before that, I was in college for robotics engineering. So I went to college for robotics engineering, and I graduated that, and it was the biggest downturn in everybody's losing money, no jobs. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I was watching TV, and there was this show on the Discovery Channel with these remote control submarines, and they were driving these things under the ocean. And I thought, how the fuck do you get a job like that?
Yeah.
So I looked on the side. I had the name of the logo on the side, T Innovations, and I called up the company, and it was actually the sub company. And he said, we don't drive them. This company drives them. So they gave me the name of the company that buys them from them.
Yeah.
So I called them up, and I'm like, hey, how do you you drive these things?
Right.
And I was they sent me to their in-house recruiter guy, and we were talking, and I was talking to him about our program, and the robotics program that I was in was everything in the sub was the same stuff from what I went to school for, all the hydraulics, the pneumatics, all the electronics.
You already got them.
Everything. So everything I was going to school for is in this sub. And so this guy, he flies up to see our program. He got a free trip to come up and tour the program, and we tour the program and everything. He shows us videos of all this cool stuff. There's 9-10 screens, and you're doing these robotic arms. That I was told, I'm like, okay, I'll take the job. It's like, that we're not hiring just yet, So I'm like, well, I want the job, So I ended up, he goes back, and I took the first job, was like at some factory doing peanuts into a fucking package. I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So every 3 days, I called this guy
On them.
for like 4 months. Every 3 days, I call him. Are they hiring yet? Are they hiring yet? Are they hiring yet? And he finally he's like, dude, stop fucking calling me. He said, I'm sending you a plane ticket down here for an interview.
Nice.
So he says, if you get the job, you stay and you go on the trip. So I go down there, fly down there, and I had this surgery on my hands. You know, I had stitches in my hands or whatever. They had some warts taken off or whatever.
Okay.
So I go down there. They give me a test. I ace it. I do the interview. They hire me. And then once they hire you, they send you to this doctor's office because you got to drive these. You go on a boat. You know, you go out into the Gulf.
Okay.
Or you go into the ocean or wherever. So you go to this doctor, and the time that was down there, we flew down on a Sunday. So I fly down there. The Vikings are playing New Orleans for the championship game.
Yeah. The one where they had bounties out on us.
Right. So I'm flying during the football game. So I get to New Orleans. They're fucking having a party.
Yeah.
So van comes, picks me up, picks another guy up from California. So we're all in the hotel in fucking New Orleans. They're partying, popping. So we go out and get drunk. And then we go to the interview the next morning, get the interview, pass the interview. They send us to go do the physical. And I'm in pretty rough shape, but I'm young, so it's fine. But then I'm about to walk out, and he sees my hands. He sees all the stitches. He's like, "What's that?" He said, "It's just stitches. They're going to come out." He says, "Dude, you can't go out on a boat with that." So he fails my physical, so that I lose a job. They fly me back, and they said, "Well, you can come back in 2 weeks. If you buy your own ticket, you can come back, and if you pass the physical, we'll put you to work."
It's good money though, right?
Yeah. So it's
$150,000
$150,000
starting.
You go on a boat for a month at a time, and So I come back, and for 2 weeks I'm sitting there, pull all the stitches out myself and everything, and borrow the money, whatever, to fly. I had to pay for my flight to go back down there. So as I'm flying down there again, it's the Super Bowl.
In New Orleans.
New Orleans is in the Super Bowl. New Orleans wins the Super Bowl. So I land, we go to the airport, and New Orleans is
just popping.
They said it was worse than any
Mardi Gras
anything. The whole town. So me and a couple other guys that I'm there, we go down to Bourbon Street. And it's so packed, we can't get back. We're stuck down there. So in the morning, there no cabs or anything. Couldn't get back to the hotel. We had to call the company and say, "Hey, we're stuck down here." So that van had to come pick us up.
But it's some other applicants too, right?
Yeah, it was me and a couple other guys. So then they pick us up, bring us back to the hotel, get our gear, and then they drive us to a couple hours to where the doctor's office is. So I passed the physical, and then they bring us down to send us on a ship. So I worked there, sober. I'm sober again. Things going well. Oil spill happens. It's kind of a thing. It's something happens. And then I lose my job. Because the oil spill happens, so they shut the Gulf down.
Yeah.
So now I have the best job ever, and
I remember you sharing about this job when we were on the first side, and I just remember how interesting it was before I even heard the money.
Yeah.
I just thought it was one of the coolest jobs. Like, dude, you get paid to sit and drive these, whatever. So then that falls apart on you.
So that falls apart. Now I'm unemployed, so I'm back here. you know, and then
How long did you have? How long were you able to even have that? Was it 5
like
months?
a year.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back and forth.
But it's good money,
It was
and
good money.
like you're not even really out spending it because you're on the boat the whole
Yeah.
damn time. Yeah. Okay.
So then, you know, start to lose every, you know,
Yeah. How
'cause
do you
you got
keep up
nice
with the
cars,
Yeah.
living in Eden Prairie, the kids. So then I found a job on Craigslist or whatever, was a laser engineer position, measuring stuff with lasers.
Yeah.
And I never worked with lasers, and I'm not an engineer, but I'm like, it sounded cool,
Yeah.
you know. So like
I went in.
and my resume looked pretty good. The resume was cool with the
Yeah.
robotic stuff on there. So I like sent it in, and they go to interview me, you know, and in the thing, it says you're supposed to know this certain program, right? They measure stuff with lasers. It goes into a 3-dimensional computer thing,
Type, whatever.
and I'm like, I looked it up, and they're like, nobody knows. They don't teach us anyway. To learn this program, you got to go to the company that built it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you want me to learn it, you'll send me to the company,
Right.
you know. Nobody knows it, and if they know it, they've already got a job. So I go to the interview, and they're like, "Why would we give you? You're not an engineer, you know." And you know, so they're listening to me. They thought it's cool. We're chatting, and we're walking through their warehouse or whatever, and their guys, all their engineer guys had this valve, an oil valve from Texas that they brought up. It's a big, huge, I mean, like a big, huge oil valve that's on the bottom of the ocean.
Okay.
They were measuring it with the lasers and stuff, and they had taken it apart to measure all the parts.
Yeah.
And they had it on all on the floor apart, and they couldn't figure out how to put it back together. And I'm walking through, and they're trying to. So I put it together in like 10 minutes. I put all the parts. This goes here. This goes here. Say, okay, we'll give you the job. So that job,
Side step. Do you have a higher power? We'll get to.
I do.
I'm just like, what do you think that was, dude? What do you think that was?
See, I thought it was me.
Well, maybe it was. No, I'm saying like looking at that, like, dude, come on.
Yeah,
how does something like that happen? You walk by. Like,
I've been blessed my whole life.
There we go.
Like,
come on.
I've been blessed my whole life. We'll get into that.
Yep.
That's part of my recovery stuff.
Yeah.
So,
which we're getting to here soon.
Yeah, we'll get. So I get that, and now we're into, you know, kids are toddlers, relationships starts going down. You know, and I was traveling for work, so I was gone all the time. Just was not, you know, and we just had a difference of opinion on the kids, and it was just a toxic relationship. Anyway, you can't have two dope heads.
Right.
And we were so soberish, you know, weren't really sober, but
conveniently sober type. Yeah.
Then we both fell off, but I started using, you know, now I'm, you know, meth kind of came back. I started doing meth, you know, so now I'm flying all over the country, you know, trying to bring meth with me, you know. So it just went down.
Yeah, like you're saying, when I'm sober, things are good, but
and I ended up leaving that relationship, and it was the first time, you know, I was like 40 and single with a good job, had money. I was finally kind of coming into my own. Like, people were liking me. I could have conversations. I could have stuff. Never happened in my life. You know, I was able to not talk about the criminal, you know, the part. I could be around normal people and hang just because of the jobs I've had. You know, I could fake it. You know, and single life just was too much. You know, the old influence, now calling old friends and now I'm going to the bar, you know, and the drug habit came back hard. You know, lost that. And my life was going down. Like that's the addiction was coming, criminal activity was coming. And I knew it at the time. And I was separated from her, and she was the only person I had ever gotten sober with. So like, I kind of tried to go back to her and to get sober. Well, instead of her getting me sober, I got her high, and it just was, you can't go back.
No,
you know, and I went to jail for a 5th degree possession, which now at that time I had 32 felonies convictions. So, I mean, a 5th degree possession, even though it was the lowest thing, it was a mandatory prison sentence for me at that time. You know, I hadn't been in trouble for, 6 years. So I fought it and went to treatment at Park Avenue, which was a really good treatment. I got a lot from that. So I was back sober again, and
what was it? Do you remember the first treatment you went to?
prison
treatment?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The other one, I did an outpatient to get my kids back.
Okay. Yeah.
Back then, but I don't remember what that one was. But first time I did an inpatient on the outside was Park Avenue.
Okay. So you go to Park Avenue, get out,
and I go to a sober house, and I'm sober. I had a surgery, and I got a job. I was sitting in a sober house in North Minneapolis, a GRH sober house. They feed you, nothing.
Yeah.
And I get a call from a laser eye company, because they seen my resume on the thing that says you laser.
Yeah.
I have laser
certification and
so they want to interview me for running the laser for laser eye surgery. So I go to the interview, and they're like, "Well, you're not an engineer." I'm like, "Yeah, I know," but my resume is,
you got engineering technology or engineer experience.
So, and to run these lasers, so you got to go to the company that builds the lasers, and it's like a 3-week
their course
training program on how to tear it apart, build it, and run it and calibrate it, and it all takes 3 weeks. And she's like, "Well, it takes, you got to be an engineer." Like, I'm like, "Well, I can do it. Like, I know I can do it." So she had me do another interview with that company to see if they felt that I could do the thing in 3 weeks. And they, we went over all the jobs I had. He thought it was cool. So I think he just wanted me to come there and talk. So they gave me the job, and I'm at the sober house in the GRH, no money, no car, no license, and I got to drive. So I'm trying to hurry up and get my license back, because you got to drive a van, company vehicle. And then they run my background, and it just flags, and they're like, "Hey, you have
33 felonies."
Yeah. So she's like, "Yeah, they're gonna pull the offer." So I sat down, and I just got done with treatment and all that stuff. So I write an email. It's like 2 pages.
Put it all out there
to the lady who runs this whole. She's like the president.
Yeah.
She's from Canada or whatever, and I write this thing and about how, like, listen, this is, you can't go by my past. There's before my kids and after my kids. They don't know about the 5th degree possession. I'm taking that to
It's still not. It's not
hit yet. So that's not on there, but all my other stuff
So
is
you're-
like
yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
6 years old. And I'm like, my life's too separate from my kids and on, you know,
I changed.
look at this part of my life and not that part.
Right.
Whatever. I wrote
Did the letter work?
the letter works. So she
Hang on.
gives me a chance.
We gotta get some sound effects.
So she sends me to, you know, so then she's going to send me to the thing. Then my driving record comes back. And you got to be onto their insurance. So their insurance quoted, you know, and this is like $100 and some $1,000 a year job.
Yeah.
And their insurance said they had to pay like $25,000 to have me drive it, to be insured under their. So now it costs them another $25,000, but I'm already in this class that they're spending $20,000 for me to. So they're stuck. So they pay that, whatever. I go through the class, I'm doing all that. And yeah, I started doing that. So I was doing laser eye surgery. So they let me literally go into an OR, you know, with doctors and everybody, you know, you get scrubbed up and put the things, go into the surgery room, and I'm running the laser for cutting people's eyes.
Dr. Whiting doing some.
And yeah, it's just, and I'm in a sober house.
That's wild.
So, you know, all this time, you know, I don't know why I'm blessed, you know, but I don't think I'm blessed.
Of course.
Right? Yeah. Like, I think I'm doing this, and then every time something comes up that, you know, the Gulf closes, you know, the market crashes, and I lose my job, you know, it's always this black cloud. You know, I just didn't have the fortitude to maintain, you know, because I would get bored. You know, I get there, climbing up there, and then I would get bored. And like,
story of your life.
And
it was.
I could hold the con for a little bit, but then the cracks would show. Then you spend enough time with me, the shit starts to come out.
Start coming out.
People start to notice, and that's when I'm like, okay, I got to dip.
Is that when we burn it down, or we just cut and run?
I just cut and run before they figure it out. But that's all self-imposed. That's all in my head. Like they don't think I'm like they got me flying to help their other maintenance guys because they can't figure it out. I'm fixing their shit.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So it's all self-imposed. It's my thinking problem. Yeah. You know. You know, and I'm doing well. You know, I did well. I did my kids. You know, I wasn't with them, but I still showed up. I was able to do parent teachers conference, and I would coach baseball. I would coach football. I would coach basketball. So I was in their life.
You're a present dad.
I was a present dad. Yeah. I won't say I was a great dad because you can't do drugs and lose stuff. You know, there was constant issues that I could have been a better dad. So then the fifth degree, you know, I'm looking at 2 years prison. So the prosecuting attorney's like, when I got the job, they're like, I had to leave state, and they're like, you can't leave state. You got to quit your job. And I'm like, the judge is like, no, you know, he's going to prison. That's all she said. She offered me 23 months as a deal. If I lost trial, I would get 24 months. I'm like,
I'm fighting this shit.
I'm fighting it. You know?
So while you're fighting it, there's nothing that you have to say.
So I fought it for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, but it was getting to the end. And I finally, I said, I'm just going to cost you money. Like, I'm taking it to trial. I'm just going to, you know, and they finally, I went in and I had a lawyer, and I'm like, listen, I'm just going to cost them money. I'm just going to be a dick. I'm going to get the cop on a phone or on the stand, and we're going to just make it last a week.
Right.
Just keep asking questions. I don't care. Yeah. If they're going to send me to prison, I'm going to make them pay for it. and they finally took me in, and my sister's a lawyer, worked for a judge, so she was kind of would give me a hand on the inside.
Yeah.
So they took her. They all went in the back room and like said, "Tell them to take a deal." Like, I'm not taking. Well, there's no deal.
Right.
Like, and they wanted. My sister comes out and she says, "You need to take the deal." I'm like, with no deal,
Right. Yeah.
and she said, "The only way you're going to get a downward departure is if you take a deal, but it's only on the judge. So, but there's no guarantees." And I'm like, you can't ask me to do that.
Right.
Like, and she says, if you don't plead guilty, you're stupid. So I went in and I pled guilty, and then, like I said, I was doing good. I was making all the money.
Yeah.
So the judge gave me a downward departure against the prosecuting attorney in Chaska. He was mad. And they gave me 6 months
Jail time.
So like,
is that immediate?
it wasn't immediate.
Okay.
So the judge was going to set it up because I would leave town. So I would go for a week or two, and then I would come home, and I was off for like 6 days.
Okay.
So he was going to let me go and then come back
and work with you.
He was going to work so that I would do time, because when I was off, I would do the time.
Right.
So then I get in there, and the jail's like, no, we ain't doing that.
Yeah, furlough them.
Well, I haven't told the job yet. Like, and they're like, you got to tell your job. I'm like, I'm not telling them I got to do
6 months.
Do 6 months if you ain't gonna work with me.
Right.
Like I'm not telling them until I'll tell them as soon as you get it set up.
Right.
And they wouldn't work with me. They're like, no, you ain't to do that. So I had to, in order to get work release, I had to have a job for like a month or two
prior.
So I had to quit that job. And then I got a job in the union as a carpenter, just so that I could get work release. Right. Otherwise, I wasn't
doing straight time.
So I had to give that job up. And then I went and I did my 6 months. So this is the story that you're talking about.
Come on.
So I'm doing 6 months and work release, and I meet a guy in jail. Everybody says don't meet anybody and don't make any friends in jail. Well, this guy was pretty well off, was in for a DWI, and he just wasn't set up to go to jail. Like, he wasn't a jail type. Wasn't a jail guy. Yeah, and people were like on him. So like, I came in, I'm like, get away from him. Right. So we'd get out, they would come try to get money from him. And I would like wait outside with him, like beat it. And me and him, I taught him how to play chess. And so we spent like 6 months together.
Formed a friendship.
And he had a job, IT staffing, and he was making like $400,000 a year. I mean, he had his own house and paid off. And I mean, he set up. So, I just talked with him, and got him through his time and my time. And I kept up with him, and when I got out, I still kind of kept up with him. I went back I was working construction, got my own place, and I was making decent money. I was able to pay child support, union paid $42 an hour. I was doing fine, but I was bored, I would say that my sleep apnea started kicking, because now I'm in my 40s, working outside, now I'm really tired, and my kids, I'm coaching them, and they're an hour away just to go coach them at night. So I go to construction all day, go take a shower, go drive an hour to go coach them, drive back, go, just couldn't do it, you know, without help, you know, and eventually meth came back in.
You found some help.
Just to keep going, and that was it went down, you know, went down quick. What actually finally happened is I ended up having a surgery for sleep apnea, and I was out of work for a month, and I was healed enough to go back to work, and then I had it went wrong, so I had to have another surgery. So then I lost the job because I was gone for another month of healing time. And once I wasn't working, you know, I had my own apartment. I paid all the bills, you know, nobody, you know, I was paying child support. Nobody paid my shit. So then it became, you know, free for all, is who trying to get people to come and stay and pay. And like, you know, then it was just trapped out, you know, and
you weren't in recovery at this time.
I wasn't in recovery. Okay. You know, I will say I've been, from the time my son was born, I was on the path of recovery.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know it, but I was trying to be a better person, but my thinking, just how I went about it, I had no direction. It was up to my own devices, but I wanted to not be who I didn't want to be a fuck up for my kids. I wanted to be a good example. And I tried. It just was unattainable. You know, the addiction was tough. So it went down fast. And once the medical stuff, I couldn't work. I started having high blood pressure, and I passed out a few times. I had some, I don't know what, the seizures or whatever, from my blood pressure shot up to 205 over 180. Yeah. So I went in and out of the hospital. You know, it didn't help that I was doing meth and drinking and partying all day, you know, wasn't working, and the stress, and you know, the cops at the time people were getting arrested. They were pulling over Uber drivers leaving my house. It was just, I was ready to go to prison. So, I was like, I totally left my apartment and moved into the back of a tattoo shop, you know, because I couldn't go home. I was just too hot. Like, right. I knew I was going to prison. Like, and at the time I was, you know, whether you said I was paranoid or whatever, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I might have been paranoid from doing dope, but the cops were going through my yard.
You knew.
And people were getting arrested for first-degree sales in my house. So, like, it was going to come down. So I was, like, really trying not to use in this back of this tattoo shop when everybody's using. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my health was just failing and shit was going wrong. And relationship going down the tube. It was it was going down fast.
Domino.
And it all wound up. I was in a hotel, and I had enough. You know, I went and I took a belt and was gonna hang myself in the hotel room, and so that I think I called my kids and said something or whatever, and I don't know who called who, but I hung myself enough that I passed out, but I don't know. It just made me go to sleep. It didn't cut off the oxygen, right. So I didn't die, but I was just sleeping when the cops came in with me with the belt around my neck.
So anyone listening right now, like, I put a hotline up. It's 988. If you are having any type of thoughts of that, or you deal with that, or you know someone who is, like, utilize that phone number. Sorry to cut you off, Justin, but just anytime, you know, on this show, if that type of talk gets brought up, like, we don't shy away from it. We share about it. and that's how we can get through it. And there is resources out there, but this is, I'm not going to say the start of the beginning because this is his story to tell. But what occurs after this? Where does our life go? You attempt a suicide attempt. You wake up, what? But cops are in the hospital.
I was in the hotel. They woke me up.
The cops did?
The cops did.
Okay.
And they brought me to the hospital, and they were going to, I don't know. They didn't, I talked my way out.
Yeah.
I ended up walking out of the hospital after about 8-10 hours or something. They didn't make me sit.
Wow.
Whatever.
Like
I don't know how.
24, 40-hour hold on shit like that, you think.
And I went to the sober house that I had gotten sober at when I got out of treatment the last time.
Okay.
I called her, the owner of that, and she let me come back there because I had nowhere to go. I was homeless, and so she let me go back there. And so I was there, and it's North Minneapolis, and a friend of mine, Ashley, was here.
Ashley K.
Yeah. Was in recovery and will work for recovery. And so I don't know how she found out. Somebody she found out, and she called me up, and she's like, well, why don't you come to a meeting, you know? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty fucked up right now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, well, I'll have somebody come pick you up.
Who came and picked you up?
So Paul and Carolyn come and pick me up.
Did you know Paul at this time?
I knew Paul.
Yeah.
I had in
from a different life.
In the old days, I had smoked crack with Paul a few times, so I knew Paul. So they picked me up and they brought me to Will Work for Recovery, and you know, I just really wasn't. You know, I hadn't made the decision yet, but I mean, I just like I didn't want to sit in the bed alone at that time. I needed to be around people. So I came to Will Work for the first time, and you know, Ashley was like, "Got to go to treatment," and everybody's talking to me going to treatment, and my mind is like, I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go backwards to go to prison treatment. Like that's how fucked up my brain thinking is I thought, you know, that's
think that's going
backwards from hanging yourself in a hotel room, you
know? Right. No, I get it.
But I said fine. Like one of the guys said, I can get you to treat. You know, I still had insurance from the construction, you know, from the union.
Right.
So he's like, I can get you into. He set people to treatments. Like I can send you to a great one. You know, there's a 5-star one down in Southern Minnesota, 5-star chef, 4-star chef. It's a great, you know, it's, you know, high-fluting treatment center.
We got horses you can ride.
Yeah, horses and everything. And
is it raspberry or no? What what's the name of it?
I can't remember.
Because I know there's like raspberry fields down there, but
no.
I know the one that with horses. Because I heard about it when I was in treatment. Someone was like, "Oh, I was at this one." I was like, "Man, but whatever."
So when I finally said, "Okay, I'll go," like it was a couple of days they had me there, and that was like, okay. I said, I'm going to do this. Like,
you made a decision with yourself.
I made a decision. Like, I'm done. Like, I can't. I knew I could never use again, or I was going to die. And I knew I couldn't go into the treatment like doing it the way that I always did it. Like, you know, I went in and vomited everything. Like, I don't know why I felt that. It was the first time that I was like, okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say how I feel.
Open the floodgates.
It was like a floodgate. And
at this point in your life, you had never done that.
I've never was honest in a day of my life.
Come on.
And
this is where the story takes up.
And like, I actually fucking loved it. Like I was in. I talk so much that they're like, you need to shut the fuck up now because there's other people in this group. And I'm like,
everyone needs a process, Josh.
Yeah, I'm like every group it was on me. I put myself out front and center. You you know, and I was going through my health issues, and I made it 10 days. And then, you know, I went to the 10th day I was going, and they had a counselor. You know, I never did what I wanted to do. Like, so, and I like guitar and music and stuff. Like, it's like, I just want to go to Nashville. Like, I want to go do something. I wasn't going to go do anything for anybody.
Right.
And the lady that sets you up for the outpatient says, well, we got outpatients in Nashville.
Oh shit.
So they're going to set me up. They said, we're going to get you to go from this treatment down to Nashville. I'm like, now we're talking, like we're doing something that I wanted to do.
Right.
They go back, I go to lunch, and they call me into the office, and they're like, your insurance ended, and it's $30,000.
Yeah.
If you can pay that, you can stay. If you can't, you got to go. We can set you up, and we'll send you to this sister treatment, and
off 1,800. You know.
yeah. And I'm like, you can do a Rule 25 and go there. I'm like, no, like you know,
right.
The one thing I had, like, I cashed out my 401k and stuff, or my retirement from the union. I had $7,000 the day before I went into treatment. I bought a Harley because I said, once I get out, I'm never using it again. I won't do. I won't buy myself anything. So I bought it before I went in.
I remember.
And it was winter time, so I had no money left, and I was like, I had gas in the car to get back from there because I was parked in the parking lot. I'm like, well, I'm not going to the other treatment. So I was driving. I left the treatment. I had to leave. And I was driving back to Minneapolis. It's an hour and a half drive, and it was the first choice. Like, where am I going? You know, I could either go to Trap House, or, you know, what am I going to do? And I called somebody. I'm like, hey, I have nowhere to go. Got nowhere to go. They just kicked me out of treatment. And they said, well, call this guy. He owns a sober house. And so I called Greg at New Heights, and I called him up, and I'm like, I don't have any money. You know, I don't have the first month's rent. I don't have a deposit. And he said, just come here, and we'll figure it out. And I went to New Heights, and he set me up with New Way. So I went to New Way.
3R, the one out Central.
3R. Yep. And I kept going with treatment at that, and I did the same thing. I bogarted every group. Like, I put it all out there, and I stayed there for like 9 months.
Were you still coming here at that point? Were you?
Yeah. So when I came back, I was here every day.
After those 10 days, when you
After
came back.
that days, when I came back and I was going to 3Rs, I was here.
Yeah, I remember you were here.
There was
a period of time where you were here like every day. Every day you were
you
here.
Know,
yep.
I made the choice. You know, even my kids, I had to not go do my kids. You know, I came here every day because I needed to build a network. I needed a life, and this was the only time I felt that I fit in, and I was happy, and things were working out for me.
You were going. We were on that first center, and we know we had moved to the other side where you started the goals group. No, was it in the back room or the first side? No, it was the second side. Yeah, second side.
And we'll go over the goals.
Come on.
Well, let's
get to it first.
Let's go first. So when I came back, you know, I couldn't even pick my own sponsor. So like when I came here, I came to Paul. I'm like, Paul, you need to
get me a sponsor.
Pick a sponsor for me because my picker's broken. and he picked a guy who used to go ahead. Go. No, he used to do the spirituality night here.
Yep, go ahead.
And so I'll go through. So I went through the steps.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through the steps together,
The 12 steps of,
and this is the first time of AA.
okay.
I just went with the AA because really, I had quit using, but I never quit drinking, and
Okay.
drinking always led me back to using.
Imagine that.
So this was the first time I stopped drinking too. So I was sober too, and I said, okay, I'm going to do these steps, and it was scary, and we went through the first 3 in like 10 minutes. He was
Yep.
like, is your life fucked?
Yeah.
Can you fix it? No. Can God fix it? Well, the only person that could is God, and I didn't really have a God, so
Okay.
but somebody else other than me has got to fix it,
Right.
Because I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're on step 4. He said, after 10 minutes,
Right.
and he's like, and that's where I kind of got stuck. I'm like, I hated everybody. Like I had a problem with everybody. So writing a list of all the wrongs against me. I mean, that was every person I ever came in contact
Right.
with. That's not realistic, So he said, okay. He said, we're going to do it different then. He says, I want you to do one at a time. He said, the first person that comes to your mind, you're going to do it on, and you have to write it to the sheet. You write the situation, and you think if you start to list, your mom, dad, all that stuff, okay. First one that came to mind was my 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Anderson. Never in my million, I probably wouldn't even put her on the paper.
This is important though, Justin.
So I'm thinking, and I'm going through the situation, and I remember, the stories been throughout my life. Like this was when it went downhill in 2nd grade. Is she would take me by my hair and my ear and throw me in the corner in front of the class and all that. And I remember they were doing periods. It was on a period at the end of a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get it. So I went up after to explain it to me again. I went back to the desk, still didn't understand it. Got back up, went to her again, asked her again, went back to my desk, still didn't understand it. The 3rd time I went up to ask her a question on this period, she flipped out, took me by back then they yanked your ear, made a big spectacle and put me my nose in the corner and all that in front of the whole class. And, and from then on, fuck English. I never did another English thing in my life.
If you recall earlier in the story, he's like, we'll talk about English. This is what we were talking about.
But that was from that, and I remember,
but that's the first thing that popped in.
Going to my parents and saying, hey, get me out of here. This is not, I don't like her, and, you don't like everybody. You just got to buck up and deal with it. Then my brother had her, and she did the same thing to my brother, and they got him switched to another class. So it was like, that was
Yeah, no, I get it.
That's one of them resentment things. But so I write, that goes through this whole thing, and then you pray, and you flip it over. And what's my part? And I don't know. This is where God comes in. I don't know where it came from. It just came in, and it showed me the situation. I seen it, and for whatever reason, I remembered at that time that when I went back up to ask a question, that there was a line of kids, and I cut in front of the kids, and she answered my question. I went back. 2nd time I went up, I cut in front of the line of kids, and the 3rd time I went to cut, she flipped out because I was selfish, self-centered, and
self-seeking.
I cut in front of everybody, and she'd had enough of that. And that's what that incident was about.
So you think it was like, and this is, I'm just reiterating exactly what you were saying, but you pick your brain. You're like, what made me all of a sudden remember that that's what it was, and it wasn't me asking.
It wasn't me giving that clarity.
Right.
And then I understood, like, okay, I get why,
the trickle effect in my part was I was fucking up.
So then,
whatever.
Go through another couple of incidences, and it was like my 8th, 9th one or whatever. There's this kid, my kids used to race BMX. We'd go to BMX, and we were on a team, and there was this kid there, biggest piece of shit kid I've ever seen in my life. Like, this fucking kid was like 3 years old, and everybody hated this kid. Would throw his bike. He would tell his parents to fuck off. His mom and his dad were great. They were great doing everything for this kid, and he was just a piece of shit. And they wouldn't beat him. They wouldn't. I'm like, I'll fucking beat him for you. Like, I wanted to punch this kid in the face. And this kid pops into my, like, why am I doing a four step on a 3-year-old kid? This fucking piece of shit. Still, and doing the 4-step, I remember, like, I would have punched. I wanted to punch this kid in the face. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, this kid was just something else. So I pray, and when I flip the page over, that kid was me. Every situation, my entire life, and every adult, that's how every adult felt about me. And it wasn't that, and I don't know.
Was that like an aha moment? Like,
that was aha. That was my
spiritual awakening.
That was my spiritual awakening. That changed. That changed everything.
That changed the way you viewed your entire upbringing.
That
your entire experience.
Forgave every adult, every person in my life.
You didn't have to do no more for you. You're done.
I was done with my.
So who put that thought in? What was it that made you?
So I say that's God. So God does.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like what I say is, I don't give a shit if it's little baby Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Big Bang, the doorknob, tree. I don't care what it is. Whatever those thoughts that come into my mind came from God, and it ain't me.
Right.
I don't care what it is. I stopped trying to do the organizational and what that is. And all I know is when the thoughts come into my brain, they tell me what's right and what's wrong, what I should do and what I shouldn't do. You hear about that first thought wrong comedian, is bullshit.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if I hear people say that.
First thought wrong is bullshit, because I know that the first thought that ever comes to my mind tells me what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
All the thoughts after that is me making excuses why I can't listen to God.
Yeah.
And that
fucking
comes with,
give it up, bro. Like,
that comes, okay, she's paying my cell phone. I can't do, whatever, we got kids together. We can't, you'll never be happy if you stay in this relationship, but we can't, the kids, whatever, all the excuse, everything, all the excuses on why I can't listen to God. And that's what I lived off of those excuses on why I could never listen to that initial thought. That initial thought said, don't do that.
It's almost like first thought right and listening to everything thereafter.
So then after that, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to keep making, the less excuses I make for why I can't listen to that. And it's hard. It's hard because every hard decision comes with,
it trickles of everything after.
When you got to be honest and follow that path, it's always the hardest thing to do. It always comes, and it's always a headache. And I ran from that stuff.
It's usually not the easiest thing.
I was trying to find the easiest, softest way ever. I never did anything the hard way. So to do that, to listen to that and live off of that, and that's my God. And that's my higher power. That's what I do in this program. And I follow that. And the more I listen to that, the better my life is, the more I make excuses for stuff. Like, and I don't do it perfect. I'm the
Yeah,
worst.
but you've got like 7 years. Were you at 7 years?
7 years,
Yeah, of trial and error of
Yep.
this.
Like, you know,
Let's clear
budgeting,
that.
I still buy things that I shouldn't, you know, and I make excuses on why I can buy them, you know, and it, I don't do it perfect, but I try. You know, I listen to that as much, and my life has gone extremely better. So that 4-step was done after that kid, and I had no hate in my heart for anybody in my life up to this point.
So that just one.
I was clear. It was clear to move forward, and you know, how do I? So my life at that point just started changing. You know, I started doing things, making decisions for me. You know, I was still with a girl that was using. You know, I moved out of the sober house, went back to work, so I was starting to make money again.
Now, when you went back to work, did you embark on this new?
No,
All right, all right.
So
No,
I was
keep going.
I was still in the construction, but my body was, you know, I was 50, you know, 48 when I got sober. So now, you know, it's hard on my body. It's winter time. I left the sober house, got an apartment with a couple people from oil work, and everybody started using. So I had a choice. I had to leave, and that voice said, "Well, I had enough money to go get my own apartment."
Yeah.
And it told me to go back to a sober house. And I'm like, want to go back to the sober house, you know? But it said if you get your own apartment, you'll use. You won't.
That's what his voice is telling you, your heart or whatever.
So I went back to the sober house, and you know, then I just was listening to the voice, and that's when, you know, it wasn't very long after the love of my life came into my pictures. You know, what's funny, a lot of you guys, people know who she is. You know, I knew her 3 times in my life. I've crossed paths with her 2 times before in 20 years. We've crossed paths a couple of times, but never at the right time. And
I hope she's okay with this, but that's the love of his life right there, sitting on that chair. She's just noticing now she's on camera. Let's wave to her. Yeah, look at it.
Well,
Then she's out. Look, she don't want to look. There she is.
So,
All right, camera's back on us.
So,
sorry, Kelly.
You know, the 3rd time I brought my kids to George Floyd thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought my kids down to Lake Street to help clean up with some people, and she was there. Man, it was instant, you know, connection. And we've been together ever since.
Built a great life so far.
So I'm still in the sober house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're hanging out every day. COVID hits. So like, I'm a union, so I'm making $42 an hour, paying my child support. Got Harley, got a decent car. You know, COVID hits, I get laid off, and I still have my place, but I'm kind of staying at her apartment.
Yeah.
And the God thing hits me. Tells me if you go back to construction, you're gonna use. Now what am I gonna?
Yeah.
You know, not we're a month into our relationship, and I'm telling her like,
God told me that.
God told me that I gotta quit my job.
But
You know, so
I guess that's a good test to the relationship.
Yeah. So no money, no job. I didn't have money to pay my rent at the sober house, and like no job. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I couldn't go back.
Right.
And I don't know why she stayed.
She loves you. And
I mean, that's
it's a no-brainer.
it's a big red flag when you're now unemployed. My stock just went down considerably, but so this is.
Buddy, though, she loves you and she's a good person.
But that's the
Yeah.
If I would have went back to construction, I would have died. I would have used and I would have died. And all.
So what you're hearing is someone putting their recovery first. That's what this is.
So what that meant, I had no idea. I was broke, no money in the bank. So my buddy that I was in jail with,
The one who's actually
he was a staffing guy, a recruiter,
headhunter.
Yep. So he did IT, but I called him anyways. I'm like, do you know anybody who does? Because I had a good resume. So like I had engineering and laser and stuff. I'm like, I don't do IT, but do you have other jobs, or do you know other people looking for engineers? Like,
yeah.
And he's like, well, how about would you want to come work for me? So he had quit his job and started his own company, and was brand new company. He just started it. There were like 3 people at the company. I'm like, what do you want me to clean toilets? What do you want me to do? I knew he was successful. He was a successful guy.
Yep.
One of the things that got me is he would, every day when he came back to jail, he would write a list of all the things he had to do the next day.
Yep. In jail.
The whole list. He had a big page and he'd write all his to-do list and his calendar and everything out. And then in the morning, he'd wake up for breakfast and he would rewrite the list. And I'm like, that's fucking cool. Like, how I couldn't do that. Everything was in my head. Like, it's like scatterbrained.
Right.
Like, I couldn't do that, but I liked that about him. So, and I just knew that, okay, whatever you have me doing, I don't care.
I want in.
I'll do whatever you want. And he said, well, it's totally commission. So I want you to, I've got these jobs for maintenance techs, but he knows nothing about maintenance techs.
Yeah.
He's not a maintenance guy, but he needs somebody to call maintenance techs and find them for these jobs. Just tell them if they're good or bad or whatever.
Right.
Well, I can do that. Like, so
I can contest that.
So all the more people I put to work, the more I would make. Every hour that they would go to work, I would get a percentage. So what I would do is get on the phone. Like it was COVID, so I worked from home, and I would get on in the morning. He gave me a computer. I knew nothing about how to recruit, how to do it. So I had to Google it. Like, how do you recruit, and I'd watch videos of guys talking, and really I just got on the phone and started calling people. And once I started calling people, it was easy because I knew I could tell in 10 minutes if you were good at maintenance tech or not. Like, I knew construction, I knew maintenance, I knew if you knew what you were talking about, I could tell if you're full of shit.
And your guy, he had all sorts of connections in the world.
So he had all these jobs. So he had, he had hundreds of job openings.
Because if I'm not, he knew one of my owners personally, I thought, and that's how that.
Yeah, that was one of our clients.
Yeah, I know.
But he had 30 open jobs. Yeah. So I just had to start filling roles. So I just kept putting one at a time. And I would get up, and all day long I would make calls. I would work 14 hours a day, and 1 became 2, to 2 became 5, and 5 became 10. You know, I started making money. You know, it was doing well, and it was finally the job. It was easy for me. It was like what I was meant to do. I was meant to talk to people, and I was meant to
help people,
and I was honest. I could have honest conversation. I could actually listen to people now. You know, my recovery allowed me to have to care about, you know, other than myself, and I could listen, and you know.
Well, to steal some of your story,
that's what you did.
I get to contest that, like what you did for. This is where, and call it what you will, God, blah, blah. If it wasn't for recovery, I wouldn't have the life I have today. And part of that is I tell people I love my job. I love it, dude. Never think I would love working in a place where there's rent or whatever. And I make good coin for what I do. I'm top scale of whatever, but because I told you, yeah, I'm going to take a couple months off. No, just call this guy real quick. That's how it came about. And it's because of you, because of Rooms of Recovery, the trickle effect of this thing fucking pays off, dude. I have a better life today because of it. But okay, so now, because in a way, if you're okay with it, I want to hear the growth of. You started there making calls, jobs fulfilled to where you're at now.
So I'll get there. So it went really quick. So I mean, it was COVID. You know, so I sat at home, and I sat at her apartment and had her kids going to school from home.
Because now you got a blended family, right? Like,
yeah, we were dating, but I mean, I was able to be, you know, because her kids were home, so I was able to be there while they did school from home. So we were playing house right from the get-go. But I, you know, and I was still going to Will Work every day, all the time. But the linchpin for my recovery, we'll get into the goals group. You know, the idea. I wanted to start a group because I wanted to put people like my boss to come in and talk. So I tried to do a group, and I wanted to have speakers come in and talk to us and what they do and how they, you know, and I wanted to pick their brain, you know, so that we kind of had a group in the old building and stuff, but what became of it, I don't remember what gave me the idea, but I wanted a text string. You know, I think somebody had a family text string that everybody talked. And I said, well, I just want guys that, you know, because there's a lot of people that came through Will Work at the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and 99% of them weren't living the way that I wanted to live, whether 40 years of recovery, right. And I still didn't want to live that. There was very few people that I like generally looked at that said that I want that. Oh. And I'll say the first person was you.
Me.
It was you. You know, I had my spot. It was me and my sponsor had a text thing at the time, but I wanted to get a text group, and and you would come into every group, every room. And you were happy, smiling and happy. And I'm like, how the fuck can you be happy all the fucking time? That's what I want. I wanted to be happy like that. I wanted to come into a room like that. I wanted to give people hugs, but I wasn't there yet. You know, I wasn't. So I was like, I wanted you in the group. So I asked you if you would join the text group and be on this text screen. You know, and I just said, I just want to put a goal in the morning. Like, this is what I want to do in the morning. Like, this is make my bed this morning, or one of my early ones was I just wanted to smile when I talked to people. You know, because I was terminally like grumpy face, and I was like, I wanted to smile when I talked to people. So I had to really physically think about this all day.
Right.
You know, and then it just kind of snowballed. We got Dustin, and we got Wade, and Wade was.
Yeah. I mean, let's not cut it. Ken was good. I mean, we've had people that came and went, but
Ken was real spiritual.
Yeah.
And, you know, Wade was he was had a budget. And
Yeah,
I couldn't budget to save my
No.
life, so I wanted him.
everyone kind of had these assets too. And I don't recall if the Turtle Journals, when them came in, like I still have mine. I have Wi-Fi. Where you at? Where you at? Come on. There we go. How we doing? Let's do a refresh. shit, Justin. No wrapping up. Okay. Supply. Now we're on that camera. That's why. Do diddy. Your kids ain't here, are they?
No.
Shit, I wonder. Yeah, there's so much we can talk about. Love it. All right. Options. Jet printer. Boom. Net Geo. Boo bop 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 boo. We live? We not? We live? Oh, I can't. How am I gonna know if I don't put the show on my phone? All right. So mute, unmute. Let's do a little wavy davy. Let's see what happens here. All of a sudden we'll have sound or we won't. It's always the internet. When it does cut out, I don't know. There we go. Told you we'd be back. Tell me I'm not a tech engineer. Ooh, good. We're running off my Wi-Fi from my phone. I think what happens down here, because there's quite a few people in there, and they all hop on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We used to have a dedicated. I don't know. I it's not that I blame Carolyn. What I need to do is talk to her about keeping a separate wireless forever. We're having no issue. Whatever. So back after it. Sorry. If they read what I wrote, they know that we'd be back on. And if not, you guys can catch it tomorrow. But I do apologize about that audio stuff.
Well, I will say. So we'll just get.
We can get to wrap. I mean, you can start getting there then.
So my life started to move forward pretty quickly. Things were working well. My recovery, my relationship. It was the first relationship that actually worked through stuff. Even though you have two people coming from toxic livelihoods, we worked together. We blended two families, a bunch of boys together.
Mm-hmm.
We had our trials and tribulations with trying to blend, a Brady Bunch together. But
you said 5 teenager boys?
Well, she's got 4.
Yeah.
And I've got 2.
Yeah.
So at the apartment, she had her 2, and we were there, and we just knew that. I went from making $0 to 100,000 probably within 6 months. It went pretty quickly. So I was like, yeah, we need to get out of here. So me and her went and bought a house.
Is that the LP house?
The LP,
okay, yep.
Lester Prairie house. We bought that together.
Not right up the road.
We moved fast, but it was like meant to be. It just everything was just. It's funny when you're walking in the same direction as somebody, how far you get. I've never in my life been on the same page with somebody.
And she supports you. Like,
yeah,
she's behind you, pushing you up.
Yeah, she was.
Yes.
It wouldn't have happened without her.
She's your teammate, your partner.
Yeah. I went to. Who knows what would have happened, but she supported me, saying, "Hey, I'm going to be jobless with no job."
The Creator had plans.
And had faith in that. But so once we moved out there with her 2 kids and her oldest son and his wife, they were pregnant. So we had them 4 people, her 4 kids, me and her. We were there for about 6 months. And then my one son was having issues, so we pulled him, and his mom, like, I never had custody. She had custody. Yeah. She allowed him to come to go to school out there,
get away from
Apple Valley where he was at, which was an adjustment, like blending these kids and getting all these kids together. Some were happy about being out there, some weren't. Just building the house together was challenging with the kids. We were fine. The kids kids put a damper on it. Then we had another kid that was one of the kids' friends across the street was at the meth house, and the stepdad beating him up.
Took
So
him in.
we took him in,
Oh, you did.
and he started staying with us, and we got him going to school. And then some stuff happened with my kid's mom where I actually we went out and paid to get custody. So I filed for emergency custody. I already had Alex, but I filed for emergency custody for both of them. And I went and got my other son and brought him home to Lester Prairie. So now both my boys were there. Her two youngest, the foster kid, and then her oldest, his wife, and her baby. So we all had
like 7, 8, 9 people in the house.
10 people in the house.
Woo!
And just working and, you know, getting everybody on the same page, you know, and it went from 100,000 to 200,000. That just, we got married. And we've just been, it's been going great. You know,
I know I just went to a graduation, 3 of them.
So, you know, we've talked about what our plans were, you know, when the boys were gone and we wanted to be on the coast somewhere and be by the water and away from the kids. You know, the kids, it was not easy. I mean, it's raising 5 teenage boys and
foster. Yeah.
And it put its stress on everybody in a different way. And
side note though, you were able, from what I seen from the outside looking in, there was times you were able to sometimes work through some of that or utilize the men's meeting with sharing.
Definitely. I leaned on the guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just want to show some of the benefits to
the benefits of the goals
Yeah.
group is if I was having a bad day, you know, I didn't have to call, so I just texted.
Yeah.
I'm having a bad day, and then I had 5 people calling me, talking to me. You know, I was able to say I was having a bad day. You know, and having the right guys in my life, you know, focus on me and not anybody else,
Right.
and help me be the man that I wanted to be, and it just, we worked at it.
Thank you for watching from Iowa. We appreciate you. We really do. I screen, and the last time it did that, hang on, let me see here. Are we good? Worked out. We worked at it. Yeah, this delay is crazy. Thank you for watching from Iowa. We appreciate. We really do. Hang on. Right there's where we lost sound. I knew we would. Because all I need to see is the subtitles, and I know. Damn. Hang on, John. There we go. There we go. We're back. Sorry, everyone. So, yep.
So what I'll say is it's been continually getting better. All our kids graduated. Nobody believed all our kids to graduate. We got them all to graduate.
That's loud, but yeah.
And she was reading an article, found an article about this city called Pass Christian, Mississippi. It's like one of the 10 gems of the coast. And we started looking at the town, and it was cool, and we went to go see it. And when we were down there on vacation, we stayed in the town, but then the town next to it, we loved even more. So when we got back, we were looking at how dreaming type of thing.
Right, yeah.
And she showed me a house in that town, and as soon as I seen it, that's it. I called the loan guy. I said, "Can we buy this?" And 2 months later, we own the house in Mississippi, and selling the house here. And kids graduated, and we move next Saturday.
And I got him before he left.
So, and it wouldn't have happened without recovery.
Share that shit.
And listening to God and doing and following that and being positive and being honest and being positive and that's it.
I think about this side of things is like what always stuck out. Like Wade would share like what he accomplished in 2 years from out of prison. You've heard it, like quite a bit. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, in 7 years. Look where he was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't. I don't know. Like maybe just think about when you're in that marriage, and when you're in the marriage with an alcoholic and you're out of prison. Like, could you fathom having could you have even dreamt it? No, you know what I mean?
I never, any dream I ever had is I'm
Come on.
my life today is better than any dream that I ever had.
Right.
And it's only going to get better. We're going to go down and live on we're on the water down there. So you
do have a spare bedroom, right?
Yes, we do.
Nice.
So
you heard that, Jess, right? All right. Whoops. I'm self-inviting myself already.
But I really thank you to take the time. I love you, Timmy. You know, like I said, you were the first person to come into the goals group because you were happy in and I wanted that. I wanted to walk into the room like you, and I just needed you in my life to be able to do that. And I'm glad you agreed to the goals group text string, and I'm glad we're still doing it.
No, it's one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, and thank you for that. I don't know how to take compliments, but I feel awkward when someone's saying something like that. But dude, with my thing, you know, coming off the needle and being in recovery, instant, like, just because for a few years, it's like, this is what life's going to be. Yeah. Like, and I was okay. Like, I'm sure I'll die from this, whatever. I was okay with my life going like this. And then after a couple months of being in here, whatever, spiritual awakening, it was at about 9 months, but fucking life was good. And someone said something to the effect of like, I'm going to torture, but two things. It was always like, if I'm smiling, it's hard to have a shitty day. Yeah. Even if it's fake, if I look in that mirror and smiling, it's hard to walk in and before you know it, you're happy. And the other thing is like being higher power conscious. Like if I'm thinking about creator, God, doorknob, whatever it is that I find my salvation in, if I'm in that headspace, it's hard for me to mess up. It's hard for me to do bad. It's hard for me to walk in and be pissed off, angry. I don't want to. Life sucks when you're mad, doesn't it?
Positive. My life is positive, and that's I'm not.
Dude, I watch, and now I get to interrupt more. I watched Justin walk through some things. Like there was, without airing out situations, but there was a real tough situation that I know when you shared it with a few of us. I think it was maybe me and Dustin or someone that I was talking to about. I was like, I don't know how I wouldn't have probably punched a little kid in the head. Like I think something got thrown. It was real disrespectful in your home. Something happened to you, and you were telling it to us, calm as shit, and just I think you cracked a few smiles throughout it. And like it was some tough choices you had to make, and you made them and walked through it. And I'm like, dude, like how? But that's just because I know the old you, just based on some of the stories you shared. You know,
I chose what kind of dad I wanted to be, and I wasn't gonna. I was gonna be the dad that I wanted to be, and no kid was gonna throw me off that. You know that I was gonna be their dad no matter what, and I wanted to be the. You know,
you don't get a say in how I love you.
Yeah, and it's just how I show up is how I'm going to dictate how I show up, and I just wanted to be I wanted to be consistent, and I try to do that every day.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff, dude. And 2002, good. Hey, what is that? How many years ago is that? That's 25.
Yeah.
Good job on the 25 piece, Mary. Put her sober day.
All right, I gotta get my wife home.
Mom's gonna have to wait a couple more minutes because we don't wrap up that way. You're on the Attitude for Gratitude show. So first, name of the show is Attitude for Gratitude. Tell me about your gratitude.
My gratitude is just I'm blessed that I can actually enjoy life the way it's supposed to be. Like, I don't have to think that it's going to all fall. I have faith today that everything's going to happen exactly how it's supposed to happen. And I'm not sitting here with a dark cloud over my head, waiting for the next shoe to drop and something to happen. Whatever happens, I'm going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And it's going to be all right.
Love it. Pick a number 1 through 100.
24.
24. This is way out of left field type stuff. If you could choose only one place to go on vacation for the rest of your life, where would that place be?
Oh, man. I loved Honduras.
Really?
Yeah.
Honduras? Really?
Yeah.
I say it like, oh, really? I've never been, so it's that deal, huh?
Yeah, that was nice down there, somewhere down in the Bahamas, somewhere down there, and warm sun, beach.
I wish I could get her to come in here for this last one. I wanted her to pick a number, but pick one more number, 1 through 100.
99.
Okay, where are we at? If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would that one thing be that you taught a class in?
Positivity.
I love it, dude. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To smile, just to be able to smile.
No, you already have that superpower.
Without having to fake it sometimes.
All right, listen, if you're out there struggling, like I said, we talked about some heavy things tonight, and if you are having self-harm thoughts or whatever, dial 988. If you're looking for a place to go, meetings, call them Intergroup. Otherwise, shit, come on down here. They're still banging karaoke. But other than that, we'll see you next week with Rick and Misty to visit Step 12. Thank you guys for sticking around for 2 hours and 51 minutes. Thank you, Justin. I love you. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for being the example. Serious. Thank you for being the example, coming on here and sharing some stuff.
All right.
Love you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye.